Welcome to the User Interface Options, the Junos CLI module, which provides a brief overview of common user interface options that are available for platforms running the Junos OS. This module also covers the Junos CLI and its features. The Junos OS provides two user interface options that allow you to access devices and take advantage of its features. At the end of this module, you will be able to describe user interface options for configuring devices running the Junos OS. Demonstrate the Junos CLI and its features. The Junos OS offers two common user interface options for configuring, monitoring, managing, and troubleshooting devices running the OS. Junos CLI. JWeb interface. Click each interface option to learn more. Junos OS requires a username and a password for access. The administrator creates user accounts and assigns permissions. All platforms running Junos OS have only the root user configured by default without any password. All non-root users are placed into the CLI automatically. When configured, the console login displays the hostname of the device. When you have not configured a hostname, as is the case with a factory default configuration, the software displays amnesiac in place of the hostname. The root user has complete access and control of the device. When you log in as the root user, the software places you at the Unix shell. You must start the CLI by typing the CLI command. When you exit the CLI, you return to the Unix shell. Note: for security reasons, ensure that you also log out of the shell by using the exit command. The two modes of operation in CLI are Operational Mode and Configuration Mode. Click each mode to learn more. If you need help at any point, the CLI provides context-sensitive help in the command line. Help tells you which options are acceptable at the current point in the command and provides a brief description of each command or command option. To receive help at any time while in the Junos CLI, type a question mark. You do not need to press Enter. If you type the question mark at the command line prompt, the CLI lists the available commands and options, including user-defined variables, at the appropriate context. If you type the question mark after entering the complete name of a command or an option, the CLI lists the available commands and options and then redisplays the command name and options that you typed. If you type the question mark in the middle of a command name, the CLI lists possible command completions that match the letters you have entered so far and then redisplays the letters that you typed.
You can use the help command in various ways. In addition to the help topic and help reference commands, the Junos OS also offers the help apropos command. Click each command to learn more.
The CLI provides a completion function. Therefore, you are not always required to type the full command or the command option name for the CLI to recognize it. To complete a command or option that you have partially typed, press the spacebar. If the partially typed letters begin a string that uniquely identifies a command, the CLI displays the complete command name. Otherwise, the CLI beeps to indicate that you have entered an ambiguous command, and it displays the possible completions. The command completion option is on by default, but you can turn it off. To disable command completion for an individual user's session, issue the set CLI complete on space off command. You can use the Tab key to complete system commands and user-defined variables. Examples of variables include policy names, AS paths, community names, and IP addresses. The Tab key also offers a list of possible completions if multiple ambiguous options exist. Command completion enables you to save time by reducing your keystrokes and prevents errors by accurately referencing the desired user-defined variables. The CLI supports Emacs-style keyboard sequences that enable you to move the cursor on a command line and delete specific characters or words. Some of the supported sequences are displayed. Note, the Junos OS defaults to a VT100 terminal type. This terminal type enables the use of keyboard arrow keys without any additional session or configuration modification. Click the Additional Information button to learn more about the supported keyboard sequences. You can alter the output of the show command by using the pipe character for both operational and configuration commands. When help is displayed for these commands, one of the options listed is called a pipe, which allows the command output to be altered or filtered. To filter the output of an operational mode or a configuration mode command, add a pipe and an option to the end of the command. You can cascade multiple instances of the CLI's pipe functionality, which can be very beneficial when you must search extensive outputs displayed through the CLI for specific information. Click the Additional Information button for available options to filter the output of an operational mode or a configuration mode command. You can use operational mode CLI commands to monitor and control the operation of a device running the Junos OS. The operational mode commands exist in a hierarchical structure, as displayed. For example, the show command displays various types of information about the system and its environment. One of the possible options for the show command is OSPF, which displays information about the Open Shortest Path First, or OSPF protocol. Specifying the interface option, as in the Show OSPF interface command, outputs information on OSPF interface. The Junos OS also adds additional flexibility through the Run command, which allows you to issue operational mode commands while in configuration mode. The Run command will be covered later in this course. Key operational mode capabilities include entering into configuration mode, controlling the CLI environment, exiting the CLI, monitoring and troubleshooting, copying files, restarting software processes, and performing system-level operations. These operations can be performed using the list of commands displayed. For example, you can use the clear, monitor, mtrace, ping, show, test, and traceroute commands. Unlike software from other vendors, configuration changes made in the Junos OS do not take effect immediately. This design feature allows you to group together and apply multiple configuration changes to the running configuration as a single unit. The Junos CLI presents the configuration mode with two configuration types, active configuration and candidate configuration. Click each configuration type to learn more. The configure command causes a candidate configuration to be created and populated with the contents of the active configuration. You can then modify the candidate configuration with your changes. To have a candidate configuration take effect, you must commit the changes. At this time, Junos OS checks the candidate configuration for proper syntax, and it installs it as the active configuration. If the syntax is not correct, an error message indicates the location of the error, and the software does not activate any part of the configuration. You must correct the errors before recommitting the configuration.
You can easily recover previous configurations by using a rollback N command. The Junos OS maintains a configuration history by storing previously active configurations. The software saves a maximum of 50 configurations. This number includes the current active configuration, which is also known as rollback 0, and up to 49 previously active configurations. If you perform a rollback operation, keep in mind that the related configuration does not become active until you issue a commit. When you issue a commit and 50 rollback configurations exist, the software purges the last rollback configuration, rollback 49. These concepts will be covered in more detail later in this course.
You can enter configuration mode by issuing the configure command from the CLI's operational mode. If you enter configuration mode while another user is also in the configuration mode, a message indicates who the user is and what portion of the configuration is the user viewing or editing. In configuration mode, the prompt changes from the angle bracket of operational mode to the pound sign preceded by the name of the user and the name of the device. The portion of the prompt in brackets, such as Edit, is a banner indicating that you are in configuration mode and specifies your location within the configuration hierarchy. By default, multiple users can enter configuration mode and commit changes. Use the Configure Exclusive command to enable only a single user to edit the configuration. Uncommitted changes are always discarded when you use the Configure Exclusive command. In contrast, uncommitted changes are retained when you use the standard configure command. Entering configuration mode using the configure private command enables multiple users to edit the configuration while committing only their private changes. You must issue a commit command from the edit hierarchy. If private users issue a rollback 0 command, the software discards only their changes. When a user is in private mode, other users must enter private mode or use Configure Exclusive to become the master, or they cannot modify the candidate configuration. Exiting private configuration without committing changes results in the loss of any modifications made to the private candidate configuration. If two users are in private mode and both make the same change, for example, user 1 changes the system hostname to apples, while user 2 sets the hostname to oranges, the second commit will fail with an error message to avoid configuration conflicts. The software places the second user's changes into effect if user 2 issues a second commit command. When chassis clustering is in effect, the Configure Private command is automated. In some other environments, you might want to require users to use only Configure Private. When creating user accounts, it is possible to limit the commands available to users through the assigned properties. If a user is in configuration mode and has altered the candidate configuration, other users cannot enter configuration mode using the exclusive or private options. The changes made by the first user must be committed or canceled prior to any other users entering configuration mode with the exclusive or private options. In configuration mode, you enter commands that affect the statement hierarchy. The statement hierarchy stores configuration information and is independent of the CLI Operational Mode command hierarchy. The commands available in configuration mode are also independent of the commands available in operational mode. For example, CLI Operational Mode includes a show command to display specific operational information, while the CLI Configuration Mode provides a show command to display the statement hierarchy. The two commands are independent of each other. The software organizes the statement hierarchy in a tree structure similar to Windows folders or Unix directories, grouping related information into a particular branch of the tree. Use set commands in the CLI configuration mode to modify the candidate configuration. Use the show command to display the candidate configuration. Both commands are relative to the current configuration hierarchy shown by the edit prompt. Configuration files use curly brackets and indentation to visually display the hierarchical structure of the configuration. Terminating or leaf statements in the configuration hierarchy are displayed with a trailing semicolon. You enter neither the curly brackets nor the semicolons as part of the set command. You can quickly navigate between levels of the configuration hierarchy using the Edit, Up, Top, and Exit commands. Click each command to learn more. You can quickly navigate between levels of the configuration hierarchy using the Edit, Up, Top, and Exit commands. Use Set commands in the CLI configuration mode to modify the candidate configuration. The example shows how you can use the Set command to add an FTP service through CLI. Use the configuration mode Delete command to remove statements that you previously added to the configuration with the Set command. This command deletes the statement and all its subordinate statements and identifiers. Deleting a statement or an identifier effectively unconfigures the functionality associated with that statement or identifier, returning that functionality to its default condition. Consider using the wildcard delete function when deleting individual statements is too arduous, and deleting an entire configuration subhierarchy lacks the granularity that you need. The example shows sample syntax for a wildcard delete. In addition to deleting configuration statements, you should also consider the use of the deactivate command to cause the specified portion of the configuration hierarchy to be ignored while still retaining the original configuration. Issue an activate command to place the configuration back into effect. There are some configuration mode commands which help increase efficiency. Important: regardless of the method and commands you use to update your configuration file, you must issue the commit command to activate changes. Click the Additional Information button for a list of configuration mode commands. Let's take a closer look at some more configuration mode commands which help increase efficiency. The deactivate command is used to deactivate or ignore a configuration statement. The insert command is used to insert a configuration statement in another location. The annotate command is used to annotate a comment to a configuration statement. Click each example button to view examples of these commands and their output. You can use the configuration mode show command to display the candidate configuration. This command displays the configuration at the current hierarchy level or at the specified level below the current location. The show command has this syntax: show statement path. When displaying the configuration, the CLI indents each subordinate hierarchy level, inserts curly brackets to indicate the beginning and end of each hierarchy level, and places a semicolon at the end of statements that are at the lowest level of the hierarchy. The display format is the same format you use when creating an ASCII configuration file, and it is also the same format that the CLI uses when saving a configuration to an ASCII file. The Edit System Services command helps you to park at a specific subhierarchy. In cases where an empty statement leads to an invalid configuration because it is incomplete or meaningless, the show command does not display any of the statement path. You can display the individual set commands used to create the existing configuration file using the show pipe display set command. An example of this command and its resulting output is displayed. Remember, Junos devices do not automatically apply your configuration changes. You must use the commit command to activate your candidate configuration. You can typically perform the commit operation from any hierarchy level. The exception is when users enter configuration mode using the Configure Private option, which requires the commit command to be issued at the top hierarchy level. On devices with redundant routing engines, you can perform a commit synchronize, which activates and synchronizes the configuration on both routing engines. Alternatively, you can configure the system to automatically perform the synchronize operation when a standard commit is issued through the Set System Commit Synchronize command. When you commit a candidate configuration, the software activates the entire configuration in its current form. Use the commit check command to validate the syntax of a candidate configuration without actually placing it into effect. The commit check command cannot catch logical errors in your configuration. What happens when you are configuring a device remotely and make a mistake that leaves that device inaccessible to remote connections? Use the commit confirmed command to temporarily activate a configuration. If an additional commit command is not entered within a specified amount of time, the Junos OS will automatically roll back and commit the previous configuration. Note, the software supports a range of 1 to 65,535 minutes, with 10 minutes being the default. The system performs a rollback 1 commit sequence on your behalf. After the automatic rollback, you can load the rollback 1 file to look for your mistake. The rollback command and operation is discussed in detail later in this course. Use commit to check and activate all configuration changes and synchronize multiple routers. Click each commit command to learn more. You can use the compare command to compare configuration file differences. Click each command type to learn more. The software saves the last 50 committed versions of the configuration. To overwrite the candidate configuration with one of these previously committed versions, use the CLI configuration rollback command. By default, the system returns to the most recently committed configuration, the active configuration. To return to a version prior to the configuration most recently committed, include the version number in the rollback command. The version argument can be a number in the range 0 through 49. The most recently saved configuration is version 0, which is the active configuration. The oldest committed configuration the software automatically saves is version 49. The factory default configuration on some of the smaller Junos devices restricts the number of rollback files stored by the system. This default setting can be changed to increase the number of rollback files as shown in the example. Important: do not forget to commit the changes. The rollback command modifies only the candidate configuration. To activate the changes loaded through the rollback operation, issue the commit command.
The configure command causes a candidate configuration to be created and populated with the contents of the active configuration. You can then modify the candidate configuration with your changes. To have a candidate configuration take effect, you must commit the changes. At this time, the Junos OS checks the candidate configuration for proper syntax and it installs it as the active configuration. If the syntax is not correct, an error message indicates the location of the error, and the software does not activate any part of the configuration. You must correct the errors before recommitting the configuration. You can easily recover previous configurations with a rollback N command. The Junos OS maintains a configuration history by storing previously active configurations. The software saves a maximum of 50 configurations. This number includes the current active configuration, which is also known as rollback 0, and up to 49 previously active configurations. If you perform a rollback operation, keep in mind that the related configuration does not become active until you issue a commit command. When you issue a commit command and there are 50 rollback configurations, the software purges the last rollback configuration, rollback 49.
You can save the candidate configuration from your current configuration session to an ASCII file using the save command. Saving a candidate configuration saves the configuration in its current form, including any uncommitted changes. Note that you are saving only the configuration statements at the current hierarchy level and below. To save the entire candidate configuration, you must be at the top level of the configuration hierarchy. If you do not specify a path, the Junos OS saves the configuration to the user's working directory. For example, if user Nancy saved a configuration file without specifying a path name, the configuration file would be saved in the /var/home/Nancy directory by default. Click the Additional Information button to view more options for saving configuration files. You can use the configuration mode load command to load a complete or partial configuration from a local file, from a file on a remote machine, or from a terminal emulation program's capture buffer. The load command supports several arguments that determine the specifics of the operation. Click the Additional Information button to know more about the load command. The run command allows you to execute operational mode commands while in configuration mode. It is similar to the do command on devices from other vendors, but much more flexible. This extremely handy time saver works for all operational mode commands and can be executed from all configuration hierarchies. The example illustrates how to edit the configuration for the GE0/0/12 interface of the device. After assigning the correct IP address, the changes are committed, and the run command is invoked to execute a quick ping test.
Welcome to the lab section of the module. This lab introduces you to the Junos OS CLI. In this lab, you familiarize yourself with various CLI Operational Mode and Configuration Mode features. At the end of this lab, you will be able to log in to the assigned SRX device and explore the Junos CLI using both operational and configuration modes. Click Continue to begin the lab. This lab consists of a single part. Click each part to view its guided demonstration. Part 1. Logging in and exploring the CLI. In this lab part, you become familiar with the access details used to connect to the lab equipment. Once you are familiar, use the CLI to log in to the assigned SRX device and become familiar with operational mode and configuration mode. You also gain experience with some of the tools and functionality available within operational mode and configuration mode. To begin, click a Step button in the Steps column to identify the step number and begin its task. Refer to the management network diagram to determine the management addresses of the VSRX1 device. Access the CLI using either the Virtual Console or the SSH. Log in to the student device with lab as the username and lab123 as the password. Note that both the name and the password are case-sensitive. Issue the configure command to enter the configuration mode and load the lab1start.config file using the load override /var/home/lab/ijos/lab1 start.config command. After the configuration has been loaded, commit the changes, and return to the operational mode using the commit and quit command. Determine the system information that you can clear from the operational mode command prompt. Experiment with command completion by entering show I space. Add characters to disambiguate the command so that you can display interface-related information. Use the spacebar or tab key for automatic command completion. Try to clear SNMP statistics by entering the clear SNMP command. Verify that the CLI does not let you complete invalid commands by trying to enter the show IP interface brief command. Enter the show root command followed by the show system users command. You are entering these commands to demonstrate command history recall. When you complete, enter the keyboard sequences indicated to answer the related questions from the question section. In many cases, the output of a command might exceed one full screen. For example, the show interfaces interface name extensive command displays a lot of information about the specified interface. Enter this command now for the system's GE0/0/0 interface and answer the questions in the question section. Use the H key as needed to obtain help when the CLI output is paused at the more prompt. Use the pipe and match functions of the Junos CLI to list all interfaces that are physically down. A large portion of the Junos OS documentation is available directly from the CLI. You can retrieve high-level topics using the help topic command, whereas you can obtain detailed configuration-related information with the help reference command. Use the help reference command along with the CLI question-mark operator to find detailed information about configuring a system host name. Enter the configuration mode by using the configure command. Display the interfaces portion of the candidate configuration. Navigate to the Edit Interfaces configuration hierarchy. Navigate to the Edit Protocols OSPF portion of the hierarchy. This step requires that you first visit the root of the hierarchy, as you cannot jump directly between branches. However, you can perform this step with a single command using the top Edit Protocols OSPF command. Try to display the status of chassis hardware with the Show Chassis Hardware operational command while in the configuration mode. Precede the operational mode commands with the keyword Run to execute them while in the configuration mode. Try to return to the operational mode by entering the Exit command. Enter No at the current prompt and issue the Show Pipe Compare Rollback 0 command. Then, issue the Rollback 0 command and the Exit the configuration mode. 18. Log out of the assigned device using the Exit command.
You have reached the end of this module. In this module, you learn to describe user interface options for configuring devices running the Junos OS. Demonstrate the Junos CLI and its features.